2011 Steelers draft first round analysis. Marco, we're big Steelers fans, both of us. Let's take a look quickly at what the Steelers did in round one and what your thoughts are.
Well, first of all, before you get a chance to bust my stones, they took Cameron Heyward. You always bust my stones on how old I am. This is a little bit depressing, this #1 draft pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers, because it's kind of dating me, because I went to Pitt, I was a season ticket holder at Pitt for many years and went to a lot of games, and I watched his dad play, Ironhead Heyward, and now his kid's the first one.
What year was his dad playing?
I don't remember what year, but that's just seeing somebody's kid. When you saw the dad, now his kid's being drafted. You're old, dude. What can I say?
All right, well, you've got extra perspective.
Well, the thing here with this draft, I can't say that it's a bad draft choice, but there's a phrase in the NFL, and I think it applies totally to this pick. This was the best available at the time. I don't think this really addresses the need that the Steelers had. To me, my need is more in the secondary with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Well, I think in a way, the Steelers not giving into that is why they're the Steelers. And let's be honest, if you look at consistency of performance, I mean, if you go back to Cowher and go back to 91 or whatever, even the Patriots, we can talk about Belichick since 99 or 2000, the Colts since Manning, but really this is a team that if we go from 1990 on, probably has the most wins in the NFL, if not they're right there. And their theory is that cornerbacks, though the Steelers haven't historically in the last few years, let's call that historically, done well with the later round picks when it comes to D-backs, but most NFL guys that I talk to and listen to that are true experts say if a cornerback is not flawless, if he's not one of those, oh my God, he can't miss, don't take him in the first round, because you can get good cornerbacks in later rounds. And Ike Taylor, clearly a good cornerback was a later round pick. I also am optimistic as a Steelers fan that they feel optimistic about getting Ike re-signed in free agency. I'm hearing different things about that. I also heard the Giants were chomping at the bit for him. So in a way, the Giants getting a cornerback in round one and the Steelers not makes me optimistic they're close when it comes to money. Now, that's just a wild guess. But, man, to me, in another way I think this speaks to the Steelers is they know that Aaron Smith and Kiesel, though Kiesel's 3 years younger, they know that Smith got a year or two at most. And they also know that everything they do is predicated on, you're not going to run on us. Well, that's not just magic. There's a reason. It's because they make these draft choices. So I love that they're not, and that's something I was talking to another Steelers buddy about. The O-line, you put Max Starks in that O-line, their left tackle, who should be back, right? That's my understanding. Then you put Pouncey in there. This and they I'm having the house. The guy on the right side? I'm having the old cowboy. I'm having a mental block.
Flozell.
Flozell's coming back. This is not a bad offensive line. I'm sure they could use a little depth, maybe.
That's the key, depth.
But when you get Legursky coming in and playing well in the Super Bowl, I think to some degree the Steelers are proving that O-line, that whole idea of that left tackle that's the first round pick, yeah, that's nice. But it seems to me they're throwing in free agent, Jeffrey Scott, free agents, and against the Jets with Pouncey out in the AFC Championship game, they ran wonderfully. And the funny thing about that Green Bay game, and I don't want to get into it because I'll feel sick, they were getting 6 yards a carry whenever they decided to run. It's just for whatever reason they didn't stick with it. So to me, I like the pick. Well, and I have one other thought, but I'll let you respond.
I don't dislike the pick, okay? To me, my wish list would have been cornerback first, offensive line depth second.
But who do you take there? Do you take the guy from Texas? Was it Texas? Texas, right? Yeah.
Texas,
the guy from Texas that most people thought was 6 or 7, that was on the big boards was like 36, 37, just because it's a need. Plus the Holmes, we traded up to get Holmes.
Right.
We won a Super Bowl because we would not have won a Super Bowl. Well, for even that, beating ball, he was to me, one of the 2 or 3 MVPs of that season. Punt returns, the big play against Baltimore. If we didn't have, in a way, if we had Holmes, we'd probably win the Super Bowl last year. I mean, because let's be honest, as much as I like their young receivers, one of them got hurt and the other one didn't do very much in that game. So, to me, we gave, now who's to say if the locker room dissent would have caused us not even to get to the Super Bowl. But we gave him away for a 5th-round pick. When someone is a problem, a character issue, they're always worth, it's not like 80 cents on the dollar or 90 cents on the dollar. They're worth 25 cents on the dollar. And it seems like to me the Steelers identified some of these guys as potentially character issues. And and that's what Tomlin said in the press conference. He said that Heyward is an impeccable, that was the word he used, young man. That's what they're looking for.
No question about it. And he's the blue-collar type guy that the Steelers love, I mean, the city. The roots that he has, because he is from Pittsburgh, his dad played.
He said today I had a terrible town growing up.
There you go. But the one thing that I'll say, and play devil's advocate going back to Ike Taylor, you said you feel good that they're going to get him signed. The fact that they didn't get a cornerback, doesn't that make his bargaining, give him more power?
Well, if so, maybe that's all the better. If the Steelers have to spend an extra $400K a year to get, I think Ike Taylor's a strong cornerback. Now they decided not to get too technical, the transition tag I think it was on him, which would have had him be paid the average of the top 10 quarterbacks.
The franchise tag.
Well, there's two tags. They franchised the outside linebacker, and then they didn't. But then they have a transition tag.
Okay.
So it's one of those deals. And again, this doesn't interest anyone. But if you franchise, it's like top 7. If you transition, it's top 10 or some variation like that. So the average is a little bit different, and that to me is a little pessimistic because But is Ike Taylor one of the top 10 cornerbacks in the league? Probably not. That's kind of the difficult part. Let's say he's top 15, 16, 17, just for the sake of argument, are we going to be able to sign him? But if they were really worried about it, don't they trade up? Because they haven't been afraid to trade up 6 or 7 spots. They've done it a couple times in the last few years. So with Holmes specifically.
This is a safe choice, And with the 3-4 defense, you got to have a good defensive lineman up front. So I can't knock the pick. This will probably be like they did with Ziggy Hood. He's going to sit most of the year and learn, use him on some 3rd downs, and then, be ready. And they did well.
Ziggy played a heck of a year last year after Smith got hurt.
Right.
And I was down on Ziggy, let me tell you. Prior to last year, the only time you ever saw him was, on the sidelines if his helmet was off or something. I mean, really, it was, I can remember, and then we'll cut this, watching them, not last year, but the year before in the Dolphins game, which was the last game of the year, and they still were in the playoff hunt. And I was watching it back in Ohio. I was back for Christmas, and you hear someone go, and Ziggy Hood on the fumble recovery. And I turn to my buddy, and I say, oh, my God, Ziggy just made a play. Right. Then when you watch the replay, he got blown off the ball like 3 yards. Then he's like jogging upfield. The ball gets knocked, and it squirts 5 yards forward, and he falls on it. I was a little pessimistic about Ziggy at this point. But you watching him last year, I think he played very well. And again, it's one of those things that if the Steelers do it, it's not wrong. There's probably only degrees of right because these guys have proven their ability to draft.
I mean, absolutely. Not to sound like a homer, but the Steelers are the best-run organization in football, clearly.
I think they're up there. One thing that disappoints me just a little bit, it feels like that the Steelers get so set in their ways that they're not ready to take advantage of opportunities that fall in their lap. They are pretty much, and what bothers me just a little bit, but again, it's so hard to question them, is you look, and the Bears took a lineman that had dropped like 10 or 12 spots. Like he was projected to be 12 or 13. He got took, or maybe 15, got taken 29 or whatever. Then you had the Jets took a D tackle who was top 12 talent and fell to 30. And then the Steelers take a guy that was going to be, Baltimore was actually, Heyward was on Baltimore's radar. And initially, like last week on most of the mock drafts ESPN did, Heyward was going to Baltimore. But then that kind of stopped, and he might not have got taken for another 5 or 6 picks if the Steelers didn't take him. I kind of wish just on occasion that we'd get a little aggressive, because that lineman that the Bears got, supposedly people were in love with him. Maybe you trade up 2 spots or 3 spots, give up a 5th-round pick, and it's like, but by just asking that question, maybe they had an opinion. That's the thing about the draft. It becomes exciting. It's almost like TMZ for sports fans. You get excited about, oh, this dude, he should have been 12th, but we got him 28th. But the Bengals do that all the time. They take the best talent without regard to character, and clearly we see how that works out. So, and what part of me saying Steelers do something exciting, but part of me trusts them.
There was just saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And Steelers have done a pretty good job over the years.
All right, guys, your turn to continue the conversation in the comment section about the first round or any round as the draft unfolds, and any team we're interested in your thoughts. Remember, you can get all of our videos at pregame.tv.